Oh, hello, everybody. Thanks so much for joining us today. If we haven't had the pleasure of meeting before, my name is Leslie Ray, and I am the co-founder of the Smart Business Academy. And joining me today is my best friend, my business partner, the amazing Whitney Horton. And we are passionate about helping small to mid-sized businesses grow their sales and drive their revenue through the roof by working with them to build exceptional high-performing teams. And we do that through customized coaching and training programs, and sometimes some strategic initiatives. We're going to talk about all that a little bit today. And before we get started, I also want to give a shout out to our friends at Small Biz Club. We are partnering with them today for this webinar. If you're not familiar with Small Biz Club, Whitney, can you put the link in the chat?
I sure will. So I'll be putting, yep.
If you haven't checked them out, they have so many amazing free resources on all sorts of topics for small businesses to help you succeed. And we are so thrilled to be their featured advisors for the month of August. We're talking all things sales and marketing, so you can check out what we've got going on there and get a lot more content to help you out. Thanks for dropping that link. So thank you. Why we're here. Let's talk about, I should make one note before we dive into that, is that Whitney and I are the proud dog moms of 7 rescue dogs. I will say I only have 2, so you can do the math there. But if you hear a woof or a bark, maybe the FedEx driver went by, maybe another dog walked by, it's us. So it's a little bit crazy sometimes. That's what's going on. Talk a little bit about today, because like Whitney said, we have a lot of stuff to pack into this session. And I say session because we really struggled with, what do we want to call this? It's really a webinar, but webinar terms have become a little bit kind of tainted over time, because usually when you see webinar, what's it going to be? 20 to 30 minutes of content, high level, it's kind of fluff, and then 30 to 40 minutes of listening to someone pitch their thing. This is a no sales pitch session. This is really just a conversation we want to have with you about what's going on in the consumer's mind today and why they're buying. So this is no sales pitch. The incentive to stay with us is to get all the great information. And we're going to cover a lot of data and numbers today. Rest assured that you can give your pen and your notepad a rest, and we will give you the full report when we get to the end of the session. So we'll give you the link. We're going to cover the highlights as we go through it, the things that we know will really help you start to move the needle today and give you some tips on how you can take action. So we'll do question and answer too, I should mention at the end. So
Yeah,
if you have questions
at any time, put it into the chat if you've got any questions as we go along, and whatever time we've got left at the end, we'll go through as many questions as we can.
Yeah, great. Thanks, Whitney.
Yeah.
So why we called it Flip the Funnel. Traditionally, when you get into business, there's this whole concept of a funnel, right? So there's this big piece of it on the top, and you're supposed to gather as many potential buyers as you can. And just every week, just keep pushing them through the top of that funnel. And then you put the pressure and you push and you push and you push, hoping that slowly they drip out like, oh, here's an actual customer, here's a buyer. And we're saying that doesn't work anymore. Not based on the data that we know to be true and that we're going to share with you today. It's upside down. You need to work on nurturing relationships at the top. So as they're coming in, it's fewer and fewer coming in, but when they come in, we have the opportunity to expand that relationship over time so that you are creating a base of loyal customers that are going to want to stay with you, buy additional products from you, refer you to friends, and drive your brand. So we're going to flip it all upside down today and back it up with some data. In the business that we're in, we know what works. Like Whitney and I have been in this game for a long enough time to know what works. And we really rely on using data to support our philosophies around what works. So we would always be searching the web to find like studies that have been done so that we can share with our prospective clients, like, here's what the data says. And this is why we do what we do. And this is why we do it the way that we do it. And we started to really struggle getting that data in the past few years. So there was tons of research out there after COVID. Like Whitney, you remember, there were just so many studies being done about what was the impact of COVID on how people were buying and what was happening. So 2020, 2021, into 22, we had access to all kinds of data. And as we got into like 2023 and this year, it was really hard to find data about what's driving purchase decisions because the economy shifted. And we could, debate for an hour whether there's a recession or not. The reality is it's an uncertain economy, and we have an election coming up. Who knows what's going to happen with the economy there? So people are really uncertain. And I think the bottom line is problems still exist. So people still need the solutions, and people are willing to pay for the solutions. They're just being really careful about where they're spending their money. So we wanted to find out, great, what's going on in their mind now so that we can find the data to be able to shift our strategy and help our clients shift their strategy as well. But we were having a hard time finding the data. So we decided, like, one day we were talking, we're like, why don't we put our money where our mouth is and we'll do our own study? Why aren't we speaking about our own data that we get ourselves? And we didn't, when I say ourselves, like we didn't just mail out a survey to our email list and say, hey, would you give us your feedback? We worked with an independent third-party research firm. We spent a lot of money to help create a survey that was sound. They helped us design the questions and the types of questions, make sure they weren't leading and they were fair. They helped us outline the demographics that we wanted to target. These were all people in the US and who we wanted to get in that pool. And then they go find the people, they do the study, and then they gave us enough data to slice 1,000 different ways. And what we did is we synthesized that down into one beautiful report that we are so proud of. And we're so excited to get out in the world. Yes, Vanna White, please. Thank you. Show our beautiful report. We're so proud of it.
Thank you.
We're going to hit the highlights of that today. And really what we were trying to do is answer one big question, which is what is driving sales in today's economy? And we did that through a series of questions, open-ended and multiple choice and rankings and all those sorts of things so that we got a really good sampling of what was out there. And what we found was it really fell into 4 key areas. And that's what we're going to go through today, give you the high points of each and give you some things that you can take and run with now. And I have the pleasure of taking the first topic. And I am going to refer to my notes here and there because when we're talking about numbers and data, I need to make sure I get these right. So let me put that.
And I'll be looking, by the way, we've got a couple of different places we're streaming into right now. So there's quite a few of us that are here. Again, anything you want to know, we'll have a kind of a Q&A at the very end, or any observations or anything that surprises you. Feel free to put those in the chat. And I'll kind of be monitoring those and keeping up with those. And then we'll kind of handle those at the very end. Okay.
Thank you, ma'am. All right. So I'm going right in hot because I'm going to pick the hottest topic from the survey, which is AI. And because Whitney and our business really focuses on driving relationship-driven sales, and we're all about human connection, people tend to assume we're anti-AI or we don't like AI. We love some AI in business and personal. You know, I love every week when Netflix recommends some things for me to watch. And by the way, I started watching a show called Your Honor, Bryan Cranston.
So good.
Highly recommend. So if you haven't checked it out, do. But that was one of the recommendations that came through me through Netflix getting to know me. And I love my Alexa. Alexa does a great job of reminding me when my supplements are getting low, when it's time to reorder dog food. And I love that personalization that I'm getting from that experience. And then once in a while, something happens with Alexa that makes me wonder, like, girl, do you even know me at all? And if you follow my social media, I told this story a couple of weeks ago because this is what happened. One morning I'm getting ready and Alexa's like, good morning, Leslie. I have a recommendation of an item that's on sale that you might be interested in. I'm like, of course, I want to hear about it, right? This is a deal. Yes, it's a 22-roll pack of extra strength duct tape. And I was like, what does she think I am planning? And who else knows about this? Am I on some kind of list now? I told Whitney, like, am I the dark web? Like she's a collector of extra strength duct tape. Like, where did that come from? And then I spent way too much time trying to look at my purchases and my wish list to figure out, like, what would make the algorithm. You're not going to figure out the algorithm. I should know better. But it just made me pause and think about how much I really trust Alexa and the artificial intelligence that's getting to know me. So if we translate that to what buyers said, here's what we found in our study. 87% of buyers are unlikely to trust a company's sales recommendation when they know it was AI generated. 87%. We knew it would favor people to people. We just were surprised it was that high. And something that surprised us even more was the generational breakdown. So Whitney, you've got a slide. Let's just bring this up. And by the way, this is our one and only slide. We like to talk directly to you. You'll get the report so you can look at all the numbers then. But this one was like such a wow for us that we wanted to share it. And if you look at that breakdown by generation, what's really interesting is there's definitely, you know, a gap between boomers and Gen Z, and you can see it gets bigger and bigger as you go. But the Gen Z is not that different overall off the 87% average. And we were surprised because we thought this has been part of their world. They're comfortable with it. They know more how to work AI. And yet what it comes down to is we're all human and we're wired for this, and we're wired to be suspicious when something doesn't feel right. So 80% kind of makes sense, but we were thinking like maybe 50 at best. And this was kind of an eye opener for us. So I think some of this data will surprise you as well. Another interesting stat that we had from the study around AI was that 42% of consumers are willing to pay more to have human interaction in the sales process. 42%. So I think the takeaway here for all of you is that as a business owner, a lot of times when the economy gets tough, what we see people doing is they start slashing prices or they start cutting their services. Like they're not providing as more, it's not as high a level of support. Before you do that, I want you to pause and think about this number. Where else can you be the leader in terms of interjecting human touch over artificial intelligence so that you stand out? I like to think about a couple of examples out in the world. Number of years back when airlines, I don't know who started it, but somebody got the bright idea like, hey, let's charge people to bring suitcases. Okay, most people need to bring a suitcase on board if they're going somewhere. So you kind of got us. And then the other airlines were like, oh, that's a great idea. Let's follow suit, except one major carrier. Southwest was smart enough to think, you know what, there's an angle here that we can play against. So we're going to market ourselves as, guess what? Bags fly free. United used to charge me $200 to change my flight. Guess what? Southwest, no change fees. And they really saw a boom in their business when they started doing that. So think of it as a way to also look at the competition and market against it to say, we give you something better that's more important. Now, are they probably building in the cost of the bags? Yeah, into their pricing model, of course. But they're not putting it out there to the consumer who feels like, why do I have to pay for you to reach your revenue goals so blatantly? And something that becomes very frustrating. Hampton Inn is another great example. Back in the day, Whitney and I used to travel probably 50, 75% of the time for business. And every time you stayed at a Sheraton or Marriott, do you want to make a local phone call? $10.
I remember those days. That
right?
feels like
You want the Wi-Fi? $15. You want breakfast? $20 for breakfast.
Yeah.
So we're in our room eating like an energy bar, not making any phone calls. This is obviously, we're dating ourselves like pre-cell phone. And some of it was international. Hampton Inn slid in that spot and said, guess what? Free local calls, free breakfast, free Wi-Fi. And they really started to redefine what that experience is. To now I'm not being charged for those things at Sheraton, except for breakfast. That still seems to be a $20 price tag on that. So it's an opportunity for you to leverage that and look for ways to incorporate human touch into your sales process where automation is being used by other people. Like, oh, I'm just going to automatically DM people because I have this great tool that does it. I don't have to do it. No, reach out, speak to people, get together and get to know them. And that's how your business is going to stand out. The other thing that stood out, speaking of that, on the survey was we asked, how would you feel about a company if you learned that the salesperson you were talking to was actually advanced AI? And the number one thing people said was they would feel deceived. And they would feel misled. And there was even one thing that surprised us was a good portion, I think 30-some% said, I would start to question the security of my information.
Yeah, that was surprising.
If the bots are in charge here, like who's protecting my information? So that was really an eye opener for us. And I think something important to consider. So what do you do with this? Balance. It's all about balance. And we say AI supports, humans sell. So when it comes to the actual sale, it's all about the human touch. And when it's behind the scenes, ways that you can use technology to make things faster, easier, better in a way that impacts the customer experience in that way. Because a lot of times we put those things in to be easier for us. And all it does is it creates more friction for the client side of things. So really look at who is this benefiting and why are we doing it? And I have a great example from one of our clients who it's like a higher ticket solution. So this is something that takes a little while to get through the sales process. And part of it is creating a proposal for the client that lays out all the details and comes up with a price. And they started wondering, like just kind of playing around one day, like, could OpenAI do something like this? Like, I think Whitney, was even like a chat GPT. It wasn't like any, special tool, right? That they bought. And it took them a little effort to put the upfront data. So they went in and maybe 30 minutes to an hour and said, like, here's everything we take it in intake when we get a proposal. This is what we need to know. This is how our pricing structure works. Here's some information for a client. Give us a proposal. And if you've used AI, it's like, it just comes shooting out. And that proposal was within like $1,000, like just a small percent. And I think it was actually higher, and they felt like maybe it was even more accurate.
Yeah.
That's a great way to leverage technology, because now they can get that proposal in the hands of their buyer so much more quickly. So it feels easier to the buyer, and they can get to the sale so much faster. So definitely we are fans of using AI for things like that. And we'll talk about some other examples, I think, later as we go. It's just when it gets in the way of the human connection, that's where you're going to start to see people feeling distrustful. So why? It's all BS. And if you work with Whitney and I, you know, we are the self-proclaimed queens of BS. We have tiaras. We're not going to have time to put them on today, but we do. And everything we do and everything we create is loaded with BS, and it's brain science. We geek out on the psychology and the science behind why people behave how they do. And especially in this case. So here's what's happening in the buyer's process, right? They're going through the sales journey, and they start to sense through the AI, something doesn't feel right here. I'm not connecting. And they start to distrust. And that's because we are wired for human connection. That is hardwired in our brains. And when we communicate with other humans, there is an actual energy, there's a true vibration that comes off from us that other people feel. And that drives our decisions and whether we like you, whether we trust you, and where we're going to go with this. And it's back from the caveman days, right? We had to be able to quickly assess the landscape and make sure there was no danger. So what happens is those old patterns still trigger, and we go from our logical brain, we go back to primal brain. And our brain starts to say, this doesn't feel right, and I'm going to go into fight or flight right now. And when it comes to the buying process, that looks like I'm out.
Yeah.
I'm going to go down the street and I'm going to find somebody else where it doesn't feel so weird. And I think the other thing, Whitney and I were chatting about AI yesterday, and I was saying, like, I saw this video over the weekend where they're creating, you know, these AI holograms of people and showing them, like, talking to themselves basically. And people are like, oh my God, it's like sexy. It's so cool. And they're like, this is amazing. And then as it goes on, all of a sudden their mindset shifts and they're like, it's a little creepy. Like, it just goes like that quickly because our brain starts to register, like, it's cool, but this is not real. I don't feel that same energy, and this could be danger. And also, I know there's been a lot in the news about perhaps some photoshopped or AI shopped images that are out there that are like, oh, look at all the crowds. But if you zoom in, somebody's got an extra ear, they're missing a hand because it's yeah, exactly. It's AI generated. So it's causing our brains to really stop and think, and it is influencing the buying behaviors in a big way.
Oh, it's Leslie, it's dealing with trust and loyalty. So that's one of the other big things that starts to happen is how trust and loyalty get impacted. And I got to tell you, so for some of you may know, we did a move in the last year and really gutted a house. Anywhere near the kitchen is a no-no for me. I give up. Leslie can cook. I'm just one of those. If it's on DoorDash, the answer is yes, or it can be microwave. My husband, on the other hand, loves to be in the kitchen, loves to cook. It's his, I think it's his love language or something. And one of the things when we moved out to our new house, he's used to cooking with gas and everything, but it doesn't quite come out to where we are. So we had a regular cooktop. We had to figure out, I think it's convection, induction, something with magnets. I don't know. Well, he goes through and researches head to toe on these new like a new appliance. That's what he wanted. Deep dive, figures out what he likes. He just wants to see it, touch it, feel it, make sure before he goes ahead and places an order online, it's what he wants. I'm like, cool. Made a quick stop on the way home at a place that was selling them. About an hour and a half later, he shows up. Guess what we already have? It's already ordered. And I know he had planned to place the order online, but I had to ask him, what happened? Like, we were kind of in alignment here, I thought.
Yeah.
What it actually came down to was the salesperson. And I asked him, what did the salesperson do? And he said, the guy was great. Like, he started asking about how I cook and what I do. That highly personalized interaction caused him to go ahead and make the spend. And by the way, he's already got a list of other things he wants, and he's got a salesperson. So what does that mean, and how do we translate it based on the studies that we conducted? 92% of customers are more likely to make a purchase when a salesperson personalizes their sales approach. The old days of what we thought everybody wanted, Leslie and I both started off in Fortune 500 companies in call centers with a script. Everybody thought that's what people wanted. The reality is they don't. Leslie was talking about that primal side of the brain. The moment we feel like we're being placed into like a box and somebody's reading a script to us, it goes right downhill. People walk away from that sale. And if you personalize it, the other thing is 93% of your customers will remain loyal if they had that personalized sales approach. That's why he's already got a list for everything else he wants to go back and get. And 72% of people will spend, this is, okay, write this down. 72% of people will spend more if they have a personalized sales approach. So yes, they're more likely to purchase, but 72% are also likely to spend more. I'm testament to that. I know.
I was going to say, because I know you said he spent more on it because he was like, no, I'm going to order it online. It's cheaper.
No. So here we are. What to do? So what can we do with that? I'm going to tell you right now, a well-trained team that can do personalization. I'm going to tell you, skills you can train. How people interact should be the number one thing you interview for on any role, whether it's service, sales, leadership. I don't care what it is. Hire for people who can have great relationships. Because at the end of the day, oxytocin, we talked about brain science that we love. In the brain, our brain is releasing oxytocin anytime we like something or someone, and we want to increase that. The third thing, so Leslie talked about AI, trust is a big piece. Also pull versus push. What we looked at, I'm going to tell you right now, stop the sales pitch. People don't want it. 87% of us, this was really interesting. We do the research before we walk through the door. Just like my husband did, he knew exactly what he wanted. Just like we all do, if we're going to make a major purchase, we research heavily. So when they come in, stop the pitch. What we got to do, because people are more likely to even make a purchase, 56% of us, if I feel a connection to us. So I actually, Leslie, I wanted to bring this up. I brought out our sales report. When it comes to this, it is 56% of buyers having a social connection is more likely they will make a purchase. Now, how that breaks down, you'll see it in the report. It's as low as 31% for your boomer generations, all the way up to Gen Z, where it climbs to 77%. So knowing your target audience and how that social connection and what we got to do to connect with someone. So here's what I would say. One, look at your social media. What is it saying to your target audience? And the other thing is asking the right types of questions. So I'll give you like a couple off top. Like, for example, if I'm interacting, walk me through currently what your pain point looks like. So even the way that we can change to interact. If you are a franchise owner of any type, I also want to put this out there that you can't, I know a lot of franchises have those restrictions like, oh, hey, here's your marketing. Here's the way you do it.
Your script. Yeah.
Great thing is we've got clients we've worked with that we can take that and show you how you can apply these skills directly in. So I'm telling you, even though you're like, oh, my hands are tied, the great thing is there's things you can do around it. Because at the end of the day, I said, oxytocin, we've got it. Our data is showing us that people do want that connection for sure.
Absolutely huge. And then the final thing, we're ready to roll right in, is all about the ease of the sales process, because this is setting the stage for what it's going to be like to do business with you long term. And back to the brain science, our brains like ease. They want things settled. That's why when we feel nervous or anxious or whatever it is, it's always bring it back to a steady state, bring us back to feeling calm. And a nice, smooth sales process does that so that we sail through to the sale. And in our work, one of our favorite things is when we engage with a customer, we onboard them, one of the first things we do is we want to experience that sales process, because we are about to introduce training or coaching or some strategic changes we're going to suggest. And we want to make sure they're going to work and that they're going to stick. We're not just going to throw the training out there and say, like, here you go, good luck with that. We need to make sure it fits into the ecosystem. Or is there anything else that needs to be tweaked so that this piece fits in and works long term? And so we become secret shoppers. We
Yeah.
love doing this. And we let the upper, level, the decision makers know we're going to do this and we're going to like experience it as a customer and we're going to let you know what it's like. And we really are looking for that ease and anything else. Like are the salespeople working to build relationships? Are they, using the skills that we know we're going to be focused on in the training? And so we had this client that we onboarded and it was like a dream client. And we were like, how did we get so lucky? This kind of fell into our lap. They get us. They love the BS. Like we had so many like fun conversations and we couldn't wait to go through their sales process because we're like, this is going to be easy, right? We're going to do the audit. We're going to move right in with the training. Here's how it went. So this is a higher ticket solution. So we knew it wasn't going to be like a buy now button, right? So we went in and the first thing we had to do was we had to fill out a lengthy, what do you call it even, a survey, an assessment on the website before we get connected with the client. So we're like, okay, let's fill it out. And it was a lot of stuff, a lot of details that had to do with the process and what we were looking for and how much we were going to spend and what was our timeline and what were our expectations, a lot of demographic stuff about us. And I don't know about you, but I don't like people poking around in my underwear drawer that I don't know. So it kind of started to feel a little bit invasive, for lack of a better way to say it. But we pushed through, right? Because this is part of the process. And so then we got scheduled for a phone call. We're like, great, all this data came in. We're going to see the proposal. Let's see what it feels like. And this person was really like a qualifier. I think just to make sure we were still a serious buyer, we're like, really? We just showed you the panties. Now, we got to dig into it again. And basically, I'm going to have you crack it up the rest of the call. On this call, we spent probably 30 minutes, 40 minutes maybe with this woman, very nice woman. It's just, she basically went through every question that we filled out on the original survey and we happily went along with it because we're secret shoppers. And we got off that call and we were like, whoa. But she said, great news. I'm going to have you talk to this gentleman next. So we're like, okay, this is the salesperson. So it took us actually a couple of weeks to coordinate that call because there were schedule conflicts and everything else. And we get on with this guy, again, perfectly nice guy, for like almost an hour. And number one, he kept pitching. Okay, we knew what we were getting into. And if we were today's client, as Whitney just said, we would have done our research. This isn't like a quick, like it's under $10. I'm just going to buy it and see if I like it. This is like a significant investment. So we would have done research. We would have gone to this company feeling like, I think you're the one, right? Like, I think you're the one. And we really did because we really liked this company. But we pushed through, right? So he continues to push the features and the benefits and then go through the questions again that we already went through on the survey with the screener and with him. Great news. He said, I think we're ready to go to one of our solution specialists. They're going to have the proposal ready for you. So then we had another phone call where we talked to this very nice woman and she laid out the plan. There's the proposal. Great. Looks like a great setup and a great deal. Y'all, this took us 4 months to go through this process. And we had, is that three different people that we spoke with and one survey.
Yeah, it was crazy.
Just to get to the point where we were ready on a great one phone call, probably ready to buy right away. So what we did was we worked with them to really look at the redundancies, look at the information that they were collecting up front. Do we really need it in that moment? Do you need it right now? And what we did was we took it from 4 months down to 2. And that might still seem like, well, 2 months seems like, but for this particular type of service, it's not a quick buy. It's involved and there's big decisions that have to be made in order for it all to line up. And one contact though, one person who could answer questions, who knew in depth how to form that proposal and who could turn that proposal around really quickly after. What a huge gain. So they're able to cut that sales cycle in half and reduce where they were spending their time and their energy with their people. This is one of the reasons that Whitney and I do our own intake calls. When we were starting, we shifted our business and we started focusing on higher ticket programs. All of the gurus and the advice was you need to create an application process. Number one, it makes it feel exclusive. And then people are going to want it more. That didn't sit right with us. They don't even know us, right?
You know what it led to? Because here's the thing, 87% of people will abandon cart, will abandon your process if there's too many steps. So that resistance. And you know what's interesting, Leslie, is as we've kind of gone through this, I know we've got a quick and easy assessment. Here's what I'd love to do is to open it up if you're cool with this.
I'm cool with that.
All right. So what I'm going to do.
Let me give one tip on this one. And I want to say one more thing before we wrap this up. And thanks for jumping in because I was getting very excited about that story. Is that the bar is being set in terms of sales experience by companies that have nothing to do with you. So I want everybody to really hear that. and take a moment to take it in. So when it comes to making things easy, we're being compared to how easily people can get something from someplace like Amazon or Apple. And it may not be fair, and it's not apples to apples by any means. It's just they're setting the bar for sales should feel easy. And for you, it might not be a buy now button. What I encourage you to do, though, is relative to your industry, make it as simple as possible. So what you're going to do, my one tip here, my one action is secret shop your process. And if you can't go incognito because it'll be too obvious, get a friend, get a colleague, hire us. We'll do it for you and get that feedback of what that looks like. Thank you.
Yeah, no, from like start to finish, because it is, you get so into something, you don't.
We would have, by the way, Whitney would have tapped out at the survey.
I'd have been out. I was like,
for sure.
And
I would have tapped out after that first phone call. Like, why did I just repeat myself for an hour? And that's why we do our own intake calls. Like, we want to get to know you. We're not buying the engagement ring before we even take you for coffee. Like, let's see if this is even a good fit. We don't need all that data. We'll get it when we need it.
Here's the deal. Let's see where you fall. So what we want is a quick and easy survey. So I'm gonna, there's two things. One, in the chat, I'm getting ready to release the survey. This is just something for you to go through. It will then email you your own results. It will take 3 minutes. Stick around, because at 3-minute mark, what we're going to do is, so stay here. You can hear us. We'll be right here. You'll take the survey at the 3-minute mark. I'm going to have you come back in, stay here, because I'm going to be dropping this entire, you're going to get all of our research. You're going to see what we found out. So check your chat right now. It's coming through. Your quiz is going to be there. Go ahead and click on it, open it. 3 minutes. Okay, so that will be emailed to you, the results of your survey, and a quick tip, something you can do. Because you stuck around, I also want to go ahead and give you the entire report. So what we're going to do right now is we have a magazine for you. We put it in magazine format. It's easy to read. I'm getting ready to drop that in the chat as well. So go ahead and grab that as you're opening it up. Go ahead and save that somewhere.
I just want to mention one really important thing about the email. So the squirrels in the background are doing the math. It takes about 2 minutes for the results to be delivered to your inbox. And you're going to get a great resource, like Whitney said, that'll break down what you can do about the areas of opportunity that quick survey will identify. The big thing, though, is you're going to get a link to book a call with us. And again, I'm going to say up front, there's no sales pitch happening on this call. It's 15, 20 minutes. We wouldn't even have time to tell you what we do. It is for you to be able to get some context and some personalized suggestions around your business. About everything that we talked about today, we'll look at the survey, we'll debrief on it, and we'll answer your questions, and we'll give you a couple of quick tips that you can walk away with that you can do immediately. And people are like, why do you want to, is it really free? Really, what we get out of it is this is market research for us. So this gives us the opportunity to talk to a wide variety of people to find out what's on your mind when it comes to sales, what are your challenges, so that we can continue to develop and deliver content that hits the mark. So it's all plus side for us. So please, we want to see everybody take advantage of those phone calls in the next couple of weeks, and we'll have a chat. And I know we had some questions. I saw a couple.
We'll do one quick one. The other ones that are out there, by the way, I think it was hysterical. We had the suggestion of next time we should play the Jeopardy music, which I agree with. Leslie, I'll let you take this one, the one that came in. We'll keep it really short and sweet.
There's one other I want to make sure we hit on too. So, okay.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
It's a quick one. So it's in the Q&A, and someone asked, can we share more about the demographics that were used in the survey? And actually, when you get the survey report, the back couple of pages have the demographics. So it'll show, household, geography, age, all of that stuff. If there's something you feel missing, or you have a question, or you want to know how that broke down on any of the topics, just email us. All that information's in the study. And again, share the study. Feel free to quote these stats. Please make sure you note that we're the source, because we want to get this out there as widely as we can. And we would love to see it, put to good use. So thanks.
The one quick question is, Leslie, I'll let you take this one. Where do you think the biggest mistake companies make when it comes to sales? Just really quick, like based on all the data we saw and
based on our experience, I would say it's the sales process, and people are clogging it up with all of these additional steps that aren't necessary. And what's important to note about that is every additional step you put in for your customer experience it's a friction point. And it's another point for them to rethink, do I really ready to drop down the money on this? Like, don't leave it open to all of those extra steps. And we already know what happens if it starts to feel complicated. And the other thing I'll add is that you need to have a broader look at what sales is, because we see all these strategies and courses and everything else focused on that funnel and just selling, 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 and not looking at the long game. 80% of your future revenue is going to come from 20% of your existing clients. So
Okay.
retention should be one of the key factors in your sales strategy. Get those people. Remember, we drip them into the funnel slowly, and then we have this whole big base that we stretch out, and we nurture those relationships over time, because that's what's going to fuel you long term. And then you get off that constant hamster wheel of trying to fill the top of that funnel.
Well said, because it's 7 to 10, it takes 7 to 10 times as much money to bring in a new client as it does to keep an existing one.
Yeah. These are
So
people that
that's a
like you
huge
already. They trust you, and they're going to refer you. And when you have specials, like, think about the existing clients. I got to get on a soapbox for a second to say, like, you see, like, oh, for new customers only. And then I'm like, what about me, who's been a customer for 15 years of DirecTV? When do I get a little, perk? Extend some, some of those olive branches and some of those promos to your existing customers. I think we see it in the cell phone industry. A couple of years ago, AT&T is like, nope, not just for new customers, all customers. And because that's a highly competitive market, now everybody's doing it. So be the trailblazer.
Versus trying to catch up to what everybody else is doing down the road.
Yeah.
I want to do one more quick shout out. Thank you again to Small Biz Club. It is, I'm going to drop the resource one more time. It is a wonderful resource for any small, mid-sized business to get different contacts in the business. So I want to say thank you again. There it is. Our sales trends are now out there. So grab that, take a look at it. And again, like Leslie said, there'll be a time to schedule a call. So I want to say, we'd love to go into your business and go even deeper and give you some more suggestions really quick. Again, it's for us, it's a win-win as well. So thank you all.
Book those calls and we'll see you there.
All right. Sounds good. Thank you all for coming, and hopefully we'll get to talk to you really soon.